Hello and welcome. Today we're diving into a really crucial topic, making sure your family is ready when the systems we all depend on fail. Now, the practical advice we're covering in this explainer, it comes straight from a detailed guide by Virtualization Options LLC, a technology research group that really specializes in understanding these kinds of complex systems. So let's just kick things off with a very direct question. Is your family genuinely prepared for a sudden disruption? And I'm talking about anything from a simple power outage to something major like a water main break. It's something we really all need to be thinking about. Okay, let's get into it. To really get why this is so important, we have to start by looking at our modern interconnected world. We rely on this incredibly complex web of systems, and the scary part is when just one part fails, it can set off a massive domino effect. So what do we even mean by infrastructure? Well, it's not just the physical things we can see, like the power lines and water pipes. It's also the super complex organizations and all the technology that manages these critical services. And that's exactly why a failure in one area, say the power grid, can just cascade and knock out everything else, from water pumps to our communication networks.
A power grid failure is, honestly, the perfect example. Just think about it for a second. Your home could suddenly lose heating, cooling, refrigeration, all of it. Any critical medical equipment could stop working, and just like that, communication goes dark. It's one of the most widespread disruptions you can imagine.
And then there's our water supply. A disruption there means absolutely no clean running water. And that's way more than just an inconvenience. It's a huge health risk. It can lead to things like dehydration, or even the spread of waterborne diseases. It's serious stuff. Transportation is another one of these critical pieces of the puzzle. A single bridge failure can completely hamstring your ability to get to work, to access services, or in a real emergency to evacuate. Plus, it chokes the supply chains that keep our grocery stores and pharmacies stocked with all the essentials. And finally, just try to imagine a total communication outage. No cell service, no internet. In an emergency, this leaves families completely and utterly isolated. You can't call for help, and you can't get crucial updates from the authorities. You're on your own. Okay, so now that we've got the big picture, let's bring this home. Let's make it personal. We need to shift from thinking about this as some abstract problem to figuring out how these risks apply directly to your household. The guide from Virtualization Options breaks this risk assessment down into 3 really simple steps. First, you've got to identify the systems your family truly depends on every single day. Second, do a little research on the likelihood of those systems failing where you live. And third, prioritize your prep by focusing on whatever would hit your family the hardest. Let's just pause on that for a moment. Seriously, what does your family depend on the most? Is it that constant power for medical equipment, or maybe a reliable source of clean water? Nailing this down is the absolute foundation of a solid plan. Okay, so we've figured out the risks. Now let's get into the good stuff. The next section, your family's preparedness plan. This is where we stop worrying and start taking concrete, actionable steps. The source material lays out 4 key steps to get this done. You're going to use your risk assessment from before, then you'll assign specific jobs to each person in your family. After that, you'll gather all your essential supplies. And finally, and this is so important, you need to establish several pre-planned meeting locations, not just one. So here are the core supplies you absolutely need. The rule of thumb for water is at least 1 gallon per person per day. You'll also need a minimum of 3 days' worth of non-perishable food, a really well-stocked first aid kit, and essential gear like flashlights, extra batteries, and a hand crank radio. When it comes to power, you've definitely got options. A big backup generator can power your whole house, but you've got to think about fuel and maintenance. Battery banks are fantastic for keeping small devices charged up. And, of course, a solar charger is an amazing renewable option for phones, but it totally depends on the weather. Making sure you have clean water is just paramount. The key insight here is to have a multi-layered approach. You need to know your water sources, invest in a good filtration system, and still maintain a stockpile of stored water as your final backup. Cover all your bases. And what about staying connected when the networks are down? You need a plan. Have backup devices like walkie-talkies ready to go. Designate specific check-in times with your family. And you can even agree on simple signals, like a specific text message or a certain number of phone rings, to pass along critical info fast. Now look, having your own household prepared is fantastic. It's step 1. But to build what we might call true resilience, we've got to start thinking beyond our own front door. And this is such a powerful idea. Don't go it alone.
Actually working with your neighbors, pooling resources, sharing information, and coordinating your plans makes everyone in the community dramatically safer and way more resilient. It's a game changer.
This really puts a fine point on the difference, right? An individual plan, that secures your family's immediate needs. But a community plan, that creates the local support network that is absolutely essential for facing longer-term challenges and, eventually, for recovery.
You know, I think this quote from the source guide just perfectly captures the goal here. It says, resilience is not just about surviving a crisis, but thriving in its aftermath. That's about so much more than just supplies. It's about your mindset and it's about community.
So we'll end on this question. Let's say your plan is written down, your supplies are all ready to go. What's the one thing you might still be forgetting? Maybe it's actually practicing your plan, doing a dry run. Or maybe it's just starting that first conversation with your neighbor. The truth is, real preparedness is an ongoing process. Thanks for watching.